The sea doesn't forgive hesitation, nor do turbines, hatches, or high-pressure systems. Aboard a naval vessel, safety isn't a checklist, it's survival. And yet, even in the world's most structured military environments, where discipline and order define the chain of command, critical safety observations still go unseen, unheard, or unspoken. Whether it's a Canadian patrol frigate slicing through Arctic waters, a U.S. aircraft carrier navigating the South China Sea, or a submarine submerged off the coast of Norway, the hazards faced by naval personnel are layered, dynamic, and frequently invisible to outsiders. Confined quarters, rotating shifts, high-risk machinery, volatile weather, and hierarchical communication barriers all shape an environment where safety demands constant vigilance. Let's talk about what to watch for in the Navy, not from the top down, but from the deck plates up. In 2020, aboard an Indian Navy destroyer during routine maintenance, a junior sailor was assigned to clean a bilge area. The procedure was considered low risk, but the space had poor airflow. Over the course of his shift, exposure to residual fumes caused him to lose consciousness. His crewmates found him minutes later, but it took over an hour to safely extract him from the confined space. The incident prompted a full review, not because the work was inherently dangerous, but because basic gas monitoring had been overlooked. This wasn't a failure of tools. It was a failure to pause, assess, and speak up. In the naval world, silence can be deadly. In 2017, a UK Royal Navy submarine suffered a fire in its battery compartment while submerged. A junior officer noticed the odor of overheating but was hesitant to escalate the concern. By the time alarms triggered, the fire had spread. The crew managed to surface and the incident was contained, but an internal review later highlighted a culture where questioning senior instructions was considered taboo, even in emergencies. Globally, over 60% of military safety incidents are attributed not to equipment failure, but to communication breakdowns and normalization of risk, according to an international defense safety audit published in 2023. In Japan, a maritime self-defense force ship docked for refueling suffered a minor explosion during hot work. A contractor was welding near a sealed drum that had not been properly vented. No injuries occurred, but the ship sustained structural damage. Investigators found that the hazard had been noted, but buried in a handwritten log no one read. Documentation isn't awareness, and, in environments where hazards rotate daily, the ability to observe, adapt, and report is paramount. Consider a 2019 case in Halifax, where a Royal Canadian Navy sailor fell through a damaged ladder rung aboard HMCS Ville de Quebec. The ladder had been flagged weeks earlier, but repair parts were delayed. The ship was under pressure to meet its deployment schedule. So, the ladder remained in use and one missed footing led to a fall that fractured the sailor's pelvis. A familiar refrain followed. "We meant to fix it." Meant to isn't enough. Observations must come with the power to pause operations when necessary. On a U.S. Navy vessel in the Pacific, a young seaman noticed leaking hydraulic fluid near the aircraft arresting gear. He mentioned it during a shift change, but no one followed up. Hours later, the system failed during a landing drill. The jet caught a partial arrest wire and skidded off the deck. The pilot ejected safely, but the aircraft was lost to the sea. It took 3 weeks to locate the leak source, a cracked fitting that could have been sealed in 10 minutes. This isn't about blame, it's about trust, trusting observations at every level. But it's not just mechanical hazards. Mental health is a growing concern in naval safety. Extended deployments, isolation from family, sleep disruption, and the intensity of confined environments all contribute to what many navies now acknowledge as operational fatigue. In 2022, a study by the U.S. Department of Defense found that sailors reported higher rates of sleep deprivation, emotional burnout, and anxiety than their Army and Air Force counterparts. Suicide rates in naval forces have increased year over year in multiple nations, including Canada, the U.S., and the U.K. One Canadian petty officer shared anonymously, "We drill every emergency, fire, flood, missile strike, but we never drill for someone breaking down in silence. We don't have a protocol for a shipmate unraveling right next to us." Psychological safety observations matter too. Changes in mood, withdrawal from the group, disrupted sleep patterns, fatigue masked by forced alertness. These are real indicators. Ignoring them has consequences. Then there's the physical fatigue, long shifts, night watches, rotating schedules that confuse the body's natural rhythm. In 2020, a crew member aboard a Norwegian naval ship fell asleep on the bridge. His shift was hour 18 of a 20-hour day, covering for another crew member in quarantine. In his exhaustion, he failed to input a critical course correction. and the ship scraped a reef near the Lofoten Islands. No one was injured, but the incident cost millions in repairs. The Navy cited human error, but the root cause was fatigue, stacked shift rotations with no formal override, fatigue, hierarchy, and normalization, a triad of invisible threats. And still, there are stories of prevention. On board HMAS Adelaide, an Australian naval amphibious ship, crew members implemented a peer-led safety challenge called Pause and Point. Every watch, a sailor had to identify one safety concern, from a loose tie-down to a frayed cable, and point it out during their debrief. The goal wasn't punishment, it was habit building. Within 3 months, near-miss reports doubled, and several previously unnoticed hazards were corrected. In the US Navy, a pilot program added color-coded observation cards to every workstation. Green for environmental, yellow for mechanical, red for procedural. Sailors were encouraged to tag any area needing attention. Within the first quarter, cards were used 300% more often than traditional incident logs. In the Indian Navy, daily muster now includes a check-and-say moment, a 60-second window where any crew member can voice a safety concern without rank-related backlash. Participation has grown steadily and anonymous reporting has declined. Why? Because people feel heard. We often think of the military as a rigid machine, but even the most disciplined system needs flexibility when it comes to safety. Observations must be welcomed from all directions, from the engine room to the command deck. So what should you watch for on a naval vessel? Anything that looks like routine but smells like risk. Leaking fluids that aren't logged, electrical panels with condensation, crew members working silently through exhaustion, safety equipment showing wear, confined spaces entered without monitoring, odors ignored, voices dismissed. And what are the positive signs? Crew that question orders without fear, teams that rotate duties before fatigue sets in, supervisors that listen, really listen, routine walkthroughs that include all ranks, a culture that values clarity over compliance. Because in the Navy, the smallest observation can prevent the biggest incident. The next time you see a sailor inspecting a line twice, double-checking a vent valve, or tapping a bulkhead out of habit, recognize it for what it is: experience, vigilance, and survival. Thank you for watching and welcome to the Safety Smart HQ community. If you've served at sea or supported naval operations, share your stories in the comments. What did you see that others didn't? Your voice might be the one that helps someone else speak up. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll move from the sea to the soil, looking at safety observations in the Army. Until then, stay alert, stay connected, and stay safe.